A very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Mashain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Manufacturing contracts in September 2022. Government faces calls for reform in exchange for higher taxes. News in detail. The World Bank has assured that it will work closely with the International Monetary Fund and other development partners to support Sri Lanka's recovery and sustainable growth. The assurance was given by World Bank Vice President for South Asia, Martin Razor, during a brief meeting with the State Finance Minister, Shehan Semsinghe. The meeting took place in Washington on the sidelines of IMF and World Bank Annual Meeting 2022. The Ministry of Finance in a statement notes that State Minister Semsinghe had an insightful conversation on options for economic recovery with Martin Razor and the World Bank delegation. The State Minister added that new concessional funding would remain linked to reforms, the progress of debt restructuring and the program agreed with the IMF. Discussions focused on current creditworthiness as Sri Lanka is no longer entitled to source funding through the World Bank's International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The process entails a reverse graduation to International Development Association, which will move Sri Lanka from an IBRD-only country to an IDA country. However, Sri Lanka will remain listed as a middle-income country. The Sri Lankan delegation also met with Axel van Trotsenberg, Managing Director of Operations and the senior management of the World Bank. The two teams exchanged frank views and expectations on the country's development needs and the progress of ongoing measures to regain debt sustainability. The Sri Lankan delegation next caught up with William Roos, co-chairman of the Paris Club. Roos assured the Paris Club's full support for ongoing efforts to find an early resolution to the debt crisis. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce in a statement yesterday held that it acknowledged the rationale for the recently proposed tax changes. The Chamber also called on the government to show greater restraint, accountability and transparency on government spending. The tax hike will invariably impact businesses and private sector employees adversely in the current context of high inflation and negative economic growth. It is the widely held perception that tax revenue is not being fully utilized for the benefit of the people. This is likely to drive public opinion on the matter. Hence, it is imperative that the government effectively communicates actions to reduce expenditure and prioritize spending in areas critical to the public. As a part of the fiscal reform agenda, the focus should be in terms of rationalizing and curbing government expenditure wherever possible. In 2021, 31% of recurrent expenditure was on public sector, salaries of which 30% were spent on provincial councils, while 34% was absorbed by defense policy and public security. These must be reworked in terms of current priorities such as spending on critical areas like public education, health and research and development. Greater accountability, transparency and governance of expenditure along with visible steps to curb corruption are also essential requirements. To drive higher tax collection, the existing taxpayer base will need to be widened further. This will require significant tax administration reform and improving the capacity of key revenue collecting agencies to reduce leakage and ensure greater compliance. The government has given the highest recognition to exports and investments to create employment, enhance foreign exchange earnings with economic and social benefits. State Minister for Investment Promotion, Dinam Amanagama, expressed these views at a recent meeting held with the Export Development Board advisory committees. The Export Development Board's 24 advisory committees were appointed as per the provisions of the EDB Act and Cabinet approval. The committees are now playing a significant role in guiding the government and private sector stakeholders through demand-side and supply-side disruptions arising from the current local and global economic turmoil. The State Minister further added the Export Development Board and the Board of Investment should work closely to increase exports and investment opportunities in the country. Suresh Dimel, EDB Chairman and Chief Executive, highlighted that the government is now focused on strong collaboration and efficient facilitation to address the challenges faced by exporters. The goal is to face global economic challenges through private sector-led economic growth for Sri Lanka. Export sector representatives stressed their views and key concerns in improving the business and investment environment. The State Minister assured that he will endeavour to resolve these issues and barriers in close collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, including other government ministries and agencies. The 2.5-hour meeting saw the enthusiastic participation of 50 exporters and 30 ministry, BOI and EDB officials. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back after the break. The Purchasing Managers Index compiled by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka shows that in September 2022, the country's manufacturing contracted while services activities saw a marginal expansion. The Central Bank reports that the manufacturing GPMI recorded an index value of 42.6, down 7 index points from August. The decline from the previous month was driven by decreases in all the sub-indices except employment and suppliers' delivery time. The decline in new orders and production was mainly attributable to the manufacture of food and beverages and textile and wearing apparel sectors. Manufacturing firms primarily catering to the domestic markets, including the manufacture of food and beverages, have mentioned that the decline in demand was due to the deteriorating purchasing power of consumers. Further, manufacturers in the export-oriented industries mentioned that they experienced a weaker demand mainly due to the fear of recession in the major export destinations. However, employment is broadly at the level of previous month, while an improvement seen in the manufacture of textile and apparel sector. As the apparel sector frequently suffers from the scarcity of employees, it has tended to recruit despite the gloomy outlook, taking advantage of the healthy influx. The stock of purchases decreased in line with the decline in new orders and production, while suppliers' delivery time lengthened slightly in September 2022. It has been mentioned that continuously difficulties have been experienced in sourcing raw materials due to lower foreign exchange availability, although some recent improvement has been witnessed. For the next 3 months, overall expectations for manufacturing activities deteriorated in September 2022, anticipating demand-side impediments to be intensified in the coming months. The Central Bank also reports the Purchasing Managers Index for the services sector, which has recorded an index value of 51.2 in September 2022. While being 0.5 index points lower when compared to August 2022, this indicates a marginal expansion in the services sector. This marginal expansion is seen to be driven by the increases observed in new businesses, business activities and expectations for activity. New businesses expanded in September 2022 compared to August 2022, particularly with improvements observed in financial services, accommodation, food and beverage, and education subsectors. Business activities in the services sector increased further during September amid the ease of energy crisis and improvements in economic conditions. Accordingly, business activities related to financial services, other personal activities, education and insurance subsectors recorded improvements compared to the previous month. Nevertheless, business activities of real estate, postal and courier and human health subsectors declined during the month. Employment continued to fall in September due to increasing resignations and retirements besides halt in new recruitments. Meanwhile, backlogs of work continued to drop during the month with the ease of transportation difficulties faced by the staff. Expectations for business activities for the next 3 months improved further, with the developed optimism regarding the improvements in the economic conditions and with the upcoming festive season. Nevertheless, concerns have been expressed over supply-side constraints, increase in value-added tax, introduction of Social Security contribution levy, and increase in direct taxes, these which could have negative effects on business operations. A special discussion of the Ministerial Advisory Committee established under the Ministry of Industry for Mineral and Mineral Sand Resources was held yesterday. The meeting was held under the chairmanship of Minister of Plantations and Industries, Dr. Ramesh Patirana. The Ministry of Industry, in its statement, announces necessary measures are being taken to achieve maximum economic benefit of mineral and mineral sand resources. During this discussion, the need to implement value-added production projects for mineral and mineral sand resources was discussed at length. There was also a detailed discussion on the problems and obstacles that arise. During the meeting, the minister said that mineral and mineral sand resources in Sri Lanka should be systematically explored both qualitatively and quantitatively. The minister added that value addition programs should be implemented promptly. In order to produce these value-added products, special attention should be paid to innovative technology, current trends and global market conditions. The minister also cited the economic benefits that this program could make available for the country. Necessary activities were discussed to formulate a specific program to streamline value chain products as well as provide facilities to related companies, industrialists and entrepreneurs. It was also agreed to create a formal discourse based on technology under global conditions. Stay tuned for stock updates. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all share price index dropped 117.69 points to close at 8,866.5, and the S&P SL20 dropped 46.4 points to close at 2,674.33. The turnover was 1.8 billion rupees and over 74 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Until then, take care and good night.